We were doing about 100 consults a day. And this guy said, Shyatto, if we can try and get to about 1,000, na, imagine the impact we would have created. Right? Within less than 10 days, Sohail, we've had crossed 2,000 appointments a day. You really need to build a good product, and then the product will sell itself. Okay. That's healthcare. You cannot build a product and just say, "Yeah, I'll put an army of a sales team and I will get it deployed." If you remember, जब Maruti Suzuki आई थी इंडिया में, everybody said, "यार boss, अब गाड़ियाँ change होने वाली हैं." Right? We are at that stage in healthcare. If you ask me, as an entrepreneur's life, 50% product and revenues, the other 50%, please make sure you are constantly filling fuel in the tank. Right? Don't run out of fuel. Please don't start a business because you had an experience in life. I met someone, यार मेरा ना ये हुआ था, so therefore I saw an opportunity, मैंने business शुरू कर दिया. ऐसा नहीं होता है boss. For the next foreseeable 25 to 30 years, it is going to be about the great Indian dream. Opportunities here. You can't have a global company today which is doing anything and India is not part of that story. If India is not part of the story, they don't have a global story.
So hello guys, welcome to another edition of the Startup Founders podcast by the Builders Club. This is, I guess, our 70th episode, and we have, as usual, a very, very interesting guest with us. We have Shyatto Raha with us. He is the founder and CEO of MyHealthCare. Now, MyHealthCare is one of the very interesting organizations. It's a digital healthcare ecosystem which works with hospitals, clinics, doctors, caregivers, and enhances the patient care continuum process. The core focus of their organization is to bridge the healthcare delivery gap using a data-driven care process. As a service offering, MyHealthCare is designed to assist hospitals and clinics in building out and scaling their digital healthcare roadmap. Talking about Shyatto, he has a very interesting background. He has spent close to, I guess, more than a decade in NDTV. And 20, two decades rather. Yes, more than 20 years in NETV. He started off, he has basically jumped divisions, led a few divisions, probably started a few of them as well. And by the time he left, he was a member of the board of directors as well. And very interestingly, and I am really, intrigued. And my first question to Shyatto is, first of all, welcome, Shyatto.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me over.
Welcome to the Builders Club. My first question is that you spent more than 2 decades in media, and then you basically started your company in healthcare. Why and how did that happen?
यार दिमाग की बत्ती जल गई थी यार, nothing else.
अच्छा.
No, so the truth be told is, I spent a lot of my time building, as you correctly said, Sohail, building new businesses and high growth businesses in NDTV, right? Starting from media, went into the .com mobile businesses. वहाँ से went into building our first brick and mortar e-commerce business, which was selling Indian fashion designer wear. From there, went on to assist in setting up all the other businesses, which was to do with Gadgets 360 and all of those things, right? So blueprinting it, but we had others who were running it. But the good thing by then, Sohail, was that I had a good experience of digital के साथ क्या करते हैं and consumerism के साथ क्या होता है. Having done that, I always was looking out to what to do next. 2 areas were of great interest to us. One was education and second one was healthcare. So healthcare, we started, while I was at NDTV itself, we had started reaching out to hospitals. Content हमारा DNA था. So we went and started setting up all the content on the websites. So Medanta, Fortis, all the content that was powered on these websites, all the blogs, etc., was powered by us. And along that journey, obviously intrigued, went in and started seeing what was happening in hospitals. So I'm talking about 2016. And around this time, you have to understand, India was at the cutting edge of fintech, retail tech, everything had already happened. Go into a hospital, and I went to one of the most, I won't take names, but one of the most well-established hospitals in Gurgaon. And they have everything, like best machines, best doctors, sab kuch hai. Go to see a doctor, doctor sees you everything, writes everything down on paper. Jaake 2 tests karana hai, it is then the burden on the patient to go get the test done. Then the results have to come. Patient has to take the results, go to the doctor on the third floor, sir, and wait for another half an hour to show the results. And all of this, patient is paying, huh? So we said this is ridiculous. Yeah, the patient, the consumer who is paying is going around doing all of these things. Nowhere, no other sector in the world would be allowed to do this, right? And when you sort of dug a little deeper, the reason why this was happening is because, first of all, there was next to zero use of technology in healthcare delivery, right? That was one. Second, because this entire thing was on paper, the entire healthcare delivery process was fractured, which means there is no continuum, what we call care continuum, right? Matlab, ek ke baad, there's like you do in e-commerce, pack, you order, then you ship it, and then everything goes, right? There was nothing which was stitching it all together. So we said, this is crazy. I mean, this is a huge opportunity. And why is nobody doing it, right? And at that point of time, we had seen a lot of the other health tech companies which existed, some of the big brands that we are all aware of, but they were all D2C. They were all taking leads leke aa rahe the hospital pe. Okay. And one of the things I had learned in e-commerce is that in a D2C business, the consumer acquisition cost is what kills a business. Okay. If you can't break even on a consumer acquisition cost as quickly as possible, you've lost the business. Right. So the first thing we realize is, look, hospitals are the key targets. We are a country where we have 69,000 hospitals in our country, out of which 49,000 hospitals are private. Okay. If you take all the corporate hospitals, which is the Fortis, Max, Medanta, all of them put together, that is about 6%. 94% of that 49,000 is fair game for everyone. Right? So we said this is a huge market, huge opportunity, and a very good way that we can use all the talent that we have learned. And let's go and see how far it goes. So that was this very, I mean, you described it very nicely in terms of what MyHealthcare does. But I'll put it in a very simple way. Think of a triangle. One end is the doctor, second end is the hospital, third end is the patient. The pipe that connects the three of them is MyHealthcare. We run the plumbing, we run the pipe, and we run the infrastructure. Right? And then over a period of time, what we've said is the number of hospitals will grow, number of doctors will grow, and therefore my patients coming into this ecosystem will actually have a larger play in terms of how they can actually get access to their healthcare needs, right? Because ultimately what happens also in healthcare, Sohail, is I don't go to only one hospital for everything, right? I follow a doctor. So I have to find a way that actually allows my patients to stay within one ecosystem. It's like one big ecosystem where I can go to multiple of my hospitals, but at the end of the day, my care can get standardized. My entire value proposition of managing my care can get standardized, right? So that was the whole idea. And then we realized, yeah, this is not in the DNA of NDTV. Karna to hai. But initial instinct was, yeah, getting ready. This is the founder's dilemma, right? Is when you're leaving a corporate job, जब सैलरी हर महीने अपने बैंक अकाउंट में आती है, चिंता करने की जरूरत नहीं है. From moving from that to a great unknown for the first time in your life was a big one for us. So we said, look, this has got to be a significant opportunity, otherwise it's not going to make sense. And the more we dug deeper, we said, yeah, $198 billion market, even if we do 1%, 2%, you're at least going to hit somewhere. So that's when we decided, yeah, chuck our corporate jobs, started MyHealthcare, and we are now 5 years down. Sohail, I've forgotten what my 23 years of media life was. So this was it. There was nothing else. I know everything about healthcare today. I can tell you a lot more about cardiac surgeries, neurosurgeries, and it is super exciting. You know, I mean, you feel good and energetic to wake up every morning, learn something new, do something new, and knowing fully well that you're not just saying that I'm going to make change in the world, but you're actually seeing that change happen in front of your eyes. I think that's really rewarding.
Yeah. So you keep saying us. So your co-founder was somebody who was your colleague in NDTV?
Yeah. So both my co-founders, they were my colleagues. One was Divya, who is our chief product officer and co-founder. So she's been doing digital product design for almost 27, 28 years. And Anish, who's my co-founder and CIO, I met during the e-commerce days. So Anish is an ethical hacker by profession, and he's worked with the whole world. And it's a nice combination. Yeah, एक धंधा चलाता है, the other one understands product, and the other one is technology. So our areas are very nicely bucketed. And I think there's also a benefit of the fact that थोड़ा सा maturity के बाद, when you start a startup, you're not behaving like kids, right? So
Yeah.
you there is that level of maturity in what you're trying to do together as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So interesting यार, इसमें दो तीन चीजें हैं. सबसे पहले तो I guess just to dumb it down. So My Healthcare is technically a hospital CMS or system.
So I will, what we are is a complete hospital system. Okay. So what we do is we manage our solutions, manage care delivery inside a hospital. Then we have remote patient monitoring to manage patients' care outside the four walls of the hospital. Then we have a home care platform, which allows nursing and everybody to go home, right? And then we have the patient app, etc., which connects it all back, right? So it's actually a very integrated healthcare system, because even insurance is integrated into it.
OS है, it's an operating system. Hospital
It's
का
like
OS कह लो.
yeah. That's a to dumb it down, you're right. That is the right way. It's the operating system of healthcare. I agree with that.
तो ये जो market है, so you said that there are 69,000 odd hospitals out there, जिसमें से I guess the bigger names constitute of what 20% of the market, and the rest 80% are individual hospitals, is it? Is that how
the bigger names are almost only about 8% of the market.
अच्छा.
92% is actually the rest of the market.
तो ये interesting है, because I think ये सबसे बड़ा challenge जो होता है ना, and this is true for any organization, any legacy organization, कि यार एक बार एक CMS या फिर एक इन लोगों ने अगर कोई टेक्नोलॉजी अडॉप्ट कर ली, तो उसके बाद उसको रीट्रेन करना the whole personnel is a very big challenge, and especially hospital ecosystem, and that's why you see all of these. We have seen a lot of these startups coming up with really advanced stuff, but very few are able to make the dent, because the people who are the decision makers for taking the leap of faith usually don't go ahead with it. And primarily because यार इतना headache कौन लेगा, चल तो रहा है.
Correct. Absolutely correct.
So when you went out to the first hospital for making this, कि आप कर लो, आप पायलट कर लो हमारे साथ, तो वहां से बैकलैश, वहां से आपको कैसा रिस्पॉन्स है, and how were you able to convince these people?
So I think one big advantage we had, Sohail, is that three of us co-founders, we had no healthcare experience. Okay. So healthcare has been plagued with one very big problem, which is, like you correctly said, everybody has built what they call healthcare information systems. It's like a health hospital ERP, and every hospital के पास वो होगा ही होगा. उसपे billing होता है, supply chain होता है, that happens. And literally, India में, I think I might even say this is underestimated or overestimated. 7,000 से ऊपर वेंडर्स हैं इस चीज में, ठीक है. एंड संतोष इलेक्ट्रिकल्स अपने नुक्कड़ में वो भी शुरू हो जाएगा इस चीज में. But what we realized was that one thing which makes a very big difference is how the data all comes together. That's important. When I keep using the word ecosystem, right? How does it make change? How does it really help somebody? See, healthcare is something which is, you don't go to it unless and until you're in pain, right? You're never going to it happily, right? You go to Amazon.in, you are going to it happily कि मैं कुछ खरीद रहा हूँ और Myntra पे जाके मैं खरीद रहा हूँ, ठीक है? But here you're going in anguish. So you're not a happy customer going in. Second thing is, your entire user interface has to be really, really good for people to be able to use that data, whatever you're putting together. It has to come out easy. It has to be easy to use. So I think those are the two areas that we really focused on. And we've been really blessed, Sohail, that from the first day when we started, we got our first contract within 3 weeks with Fortis.
Wow.
And I think what they saw was, look, everybody is trying different things, but what these guys have got is they've understood the product journey of it, right? I think that's what they picked up. But we did not start with the clinical side. We started first with the patient side. And then as we learned, we went deeper and deeper, and then we got the clinical side and all of that put together. Today, we have the entire hospital system that sort of is available to us and what we take to clients. But challenge जो आपने बोला, that is there. So you go to a hospital, यार मेरे पास तो already है, right? मैं क्यों change करूं? What has changed in a post-COVID world is what is called an EMR, the electronic medical record system. The clinical part of it today has become more relevant than the billing system. Okay? And the simple logic of this is that hospital का average operating margin जो होता है इंडिया में is roughly around 14%. ठीक है? And that has come under severe pressure. So what now hospitals are looking for, and anybody, there's a natural business growth function, look, how do I get a larger patient lifetime value, right? How do I get more out of that? And secondly, how do I improve my patient engagement? Now, to do any of this, first of all, you need to have all the things that you're doing with the patient in a digital form so that I can actually try and interact with the data. So this entire clinical ecosystem today has become more relevant. And that is something that we have, which others don't have, right? And when I show that to hospitals, or when my team shows that to hospitals, that is our winning factor. And then they see that, they say, listen, we understand this today. Had I done this 5 years ago, taken this product 5 years ago in a pre-COVID world, I think I would be fighting a lot harder. In a post-COVID world, I think there's a lot of buy-in from doctors. Doctors are kingmakers in this business, yaar.
Yeah.
So उनको जब समझ में आता है कि बॉस आप मुझे ये चाहिए, then that conversation changes, and that becomes more relevant. So today, for me to win a hospital has become, I would say, a lot easier than it was before. And I think you have to always get a perfect timing, as close as a founder and any founder would want, that you have to get a good sort of synergy of a product, a good GTM, and the timing of it into that market. Right? And I think we've been able to get all these three factors, we believe, as close to a near perfection as possible. But we have a long way to go. यार. अभी तो हमने शुरू किया है. I'll give you another simple example, Sohail. 99.99% of healthcare runs on on-premise server systems. ठीक है?
क्लाउड भी नहीं होता इनका, बहुत
हाँ,
कम.
पर जब मैं जाके उनको बोलता हूँ कि बॉस क्लाउड में जाना है, जैसे नहीं हम जा नहीं सकते. क्यों? क्योंकि क्लाउड में डेटा सिक्योरिटी नहीं है. Right? It's the same set of people where all your banking and your financial transactions are in the cloud. Your entire wealth you're putting in the cloud, right? But you don't want to take advantage of cloud in this. That journey also we've been able to shift. Today, all my client partner hospitals, not a single one of them is on-prem. They're all on cloud systems today. So we are today the largest centralized health cloud in the country.
From a value prop perspective, of course, मतलब benefits तो काफी सारे हैं, but cost perspective से मतलब is it much cheaper than what the current existing ecosystem is? Because ये एक बहुत ही important factor रहता है उनके दिमाग में.
Absolutely correct.
Right?
And I tell you, you hit the nail on its head. And I'll tell you also कि ये हर sector में है, but in healthcare it is most sensitive. Yeah. Very, very cost sensitive. So what we've done is we've taken the entire, because we give it as a managed service. We don't sell it as a pure, just, I'm selling you a box only. I'm selling you a box. I'm selling you the OS. I'm also selling you the applications inside the OS. And in certain areas, I'm also giving you the services of that. That's how we take it as a managed service to these hospitals, right? So to give you an example, I give the solutioning. I give you the AWS or the cloud service environment. I do the entire management of those servers, right? So that's a service. The box itself, when I give it to you, has applications where we have AI and data-driven care protocols and care pathways and all of those things built into it, right? Which others don't have. And now what we are doing is we are partnering with other organizations. So one of the things that we're introducing, and I'm really hopeful that we can get it out during the month of August, and our team is working very hard to try and do it on 15th August, is we are for the first time launching healthcare financing inside our application. Okay.
Mm.
And the reason for that is if you look at our insurance market today,
Mm.
two things have happened. One is if I look at urban market, only 10% of my population is health insured. Okay. And if I go to tier 2 India, that number drops to about 2%.
Mm.
Okay. 98% of the patients coming into these hospitals are cash patients.
Mm.
Second thing is the cost of health insurance in a
Mm.
post-COVID world has gone up at least 2 times to 2.5 times.
Mm.
So therefore, it is not easy for people to take up because most of us all have pre-existing diseases, which means
Mm.
our premium in the initial time will be higher.
Mm.
As a result, we are a large cash paying market for healthcare in India.
Mm.
When a patient goes for any of the healthcare requirements to the hospital, 90% of the reason for them to drop off and not take that admission is they can't afford it.
Mm.
The down payment is not available to them.
Mm.
So what we are doing is at that point itself, we
Mm.
are we have partnered with various organizations where we will be able to give anywhere between 1 lakh to 10 lakh a loan being disbursed to the hospital or at least a guarantee given to the hospital so that the care can start for that particular patient. And we are even coming up with a scheme where we work with hospitals so that this goes as a 0% EMI over an 18 to 24 months to the patient. And
Okay.
no, nothing to do with what your diagnosis is. Unlike insurance will look at what your diagnosis is and
Yeah.
etc. This is just pure boss, get treated. This is how we are changing the conversation with hospital to say now it's not technology and a service only anymore. I'm now
Mm.
also helping bringing revenues to you, right? So these are areas and these are models that we are now deploying to try and see the reason why, like you said, value proposition. A hospital will consider me as a value proposition and a patient and a doctor if everybody is getting at least somewhat of an equal share out of that thali.
Mm.
And in
Yeah,
this
yeah.
thali that we've created, right? Hospitals get the benefit of better monetization, revenue leakages getting plugged, etc., etc. Plus, we are bringing revenue to them. Doctors get benefit of the fact that their entire patient management, it's a clinical management is getting done. And patients are getting the benefit of it through either the financing or the digitalization of healthcare. That all my records and all the analytics and everything is helping reduce medical administration errors. I'm getting better access to my doctor. I don't have to travel all the way 150 kilometers to get care because I have remote patient monitoring. So all those are now today bringing that value proposition for these three key stakeholders.
Mm. So that's a very interesting one. So I think you people are then trying to bring technology as much closer to the healthcare ecosystem as possible. So the cutting edge technology, usually adoption of technology is the slowest in
Absolutely.
in these kind of ecosystems. But if you are ingrained in the, as I said, the OS of the hospital, और वहीं पे आप upgrades और updates डालते रहो, then I think it's much more easier for hospitals to intuitively start using these things instead
So
of.
it's absolutely. So first of all, everything, we are a SaaS platform. So we charge on a per bed basis. And
Hmm.
they don't have to worry about anything else because we do all the updates, upgrades, OS, optimization, management of the system. That's all my headache, right?
Hmm.
So my second pitch to a hospital is first of all the things that we talked about. My second pitch to a hospital is, boss, you focus on what you're good at and let me focus on what I'm good at, right?
Yeah.
And that's how we work as a partner with every hospital.
Hmm.
No hospital, and this has been proven, Sohail, in multiple places, right? A lot of various hospital organizations have said, यार हम कुछ सब कुछ खुद बनाएंगे,
Hmm.
right? You can't do that because you have to make a choice that when you have your budget as a hospital, are you willing to put that budget and spend that significantly in building technology? And are you likely to become a healthcare technology company, at least in some sense? If not, don't do it. Yeah, there are enough partners.
Hmm.
Let them build it. Choose the right partner, of course,
Hmm.
but work with partners because healthcare is complex. It is
Hmm.
not as simple as retail or fintech or anything. It is very, very complex. The second thing that you said is absolutely right. Change management is very slow. Yeah. You
Hmm.
can't go and switch, even if you have to deploy a system, you can't change it overnight. The
Hmm.
system has to get deployed overnight because you can't have two parallel systems. But change management, users learning, attrition बहुत होता है because in healthcare, because people are moving in and out of
Yeah.
hospital. So those things, again, we have addressed it by, like I said, the UI. Our training time for a nurse is now down to 2 days,
Oh.
right? So this, because the platform itself, by the very design, is guiding the nurse through the process, right? The same thing with the billing system. So it does take time, but I think people are now beginning to adopt, and people are now beginning to take technology. Say, यार healthcare में सबको समझ में आ गया कि listen, I need technology intervention now. Gone are the days where I can rely everything on paper. And I think it's a slow process, but it's
Yeah.
getting.
नहीं हो जाएगा, ये तो समय समय की बात है. आई थिंक इट्स हाई टाइम हेल्थकेयर इकोसिस्टम आल्सो इवॉल्व, and I think it's a matter of time only. And that brings me to the question of timing, because you talked about timing.
Yeah.
How close were you guys to the pandemic? I mean, did you people launch somewhere near the pandemic, or?
So yeah, this is I have time, right, to give you a very nice story.
Yeah, we have time.
So we had 2019, we had started the patient side. 2020, 2019 December to 2020 early part of it, we had started what we call the primary care EMR, right? So which is the what you use for clinics and OPD areas, etc. But हम काम कर रहे थे उस पे, ठीक है? And around the first week of March, we had done the UAT and we were ready to deploy that into our platform. Around the 18th of March, we started hearing about COVID. And they said, listen, this is not looking right. Kuch to hone wala hai. And on that day when COVID was, it was in fact the weekend when Modi ji was about to speak, they had told everybody, यार लैपटॉप चार्जर और जो भी हमें इक्विपमेंट चाहिए होता है सब कुछ लेके घर जाओ, ठीक है, कुछ तो होने वाला है. And the moment Sohail he announced it, we realized that everything was going to get locked down. Literally within 5 days, we built the entire teleconsult network stitched to our EMR. And the most brilliant part was that our first client, which was Max at that point of time, we did an entire integration, which is the most complex thing, integration into their HIS, the hospital information system, where everybody was remote, including their team was remote. Within 10 days, we were done. And by the 2nd or the 3rd of April, we were live.
Wow.
And by the way, we were training doctors online. Because how do you, doctors, they were not even in the hospital. And those who were coming to the hospital had to manage the wards and inpatient. So all of this actually gave us our journey into the clinical side of it. And then we actually also took advantage of the fact that we wanted to bring everybody into a common ecosystem, because ultimately that is how the success will really come, right? Amazon, if tomorrow sets up, Delhi store separately, Bombay store separately, etc., it's never going to work. It's the fact that you're centralizing everything, right? And that COVID gave us the second opportunity, not just the teleconsult, but the fact that we could bring everybody into a centralized MyHealthcare platform was the second opportunity that we got. And then in parallel, around the second wave when it started, we started building the inpatient side of it. So as we came off COVID, we were absolutely ready. But yeah, kudos to the entire team. They have worked, I'll tell you, from 2020, from March 2020 till September 2022. This entire team has been working 18 to 20 hours a day, non-stop.
Wow.
Okay, and maybe I think some of them got Sundays off. But the energy that came from them is why we have had success. Chota team hai. I mean, September 2022, we were a team of about 80 or so. Today, we are a team of 130, 30 plus. But success was all because of that.
Yeah, I think if you have a certain purpose attached to your job now, then it becomes easier to work. I mean, then work does not feel like work, especially you were attached, matlab, you were very close to the whole thing which was happening. And you people were kind of enabling the hospitals and the doctors to do their job better. If you have the right people in the team with the right intent, I think things move fast. मैं वही बोल रहा हूँ ना, वो intent वाली बात हो जाती है यार.
Yes, Sohail,
So,
you see, you're absolutely right, because at 2020, when we got into this, right, when we went to this teleconsult and all of this, we had no idea what we were dealing with, yeah.
yeah.
That was the reality of it, right? So I remember one of my project guys, and our calls used to, like, during the day, we were like servicing clients, and all our internal calls used to start from 11 p.m. at night and go until 2 a.m. in the morning, because that was the only time we could do it. And एक दिन वो उसने बोला था कि, and when we started with our teleconsult in around the 2nd to the 5th of April, we were doing about 100 consults a day. And this guy said, Shaito, if we can try and get to about 1,000, na, imagine the impact we would have created, right? Within less than 10 days, Sohail, we've had crossed 2,000 appointments a day. And by the end of April, we were doing close to about 7 to 8,000 appointments a day in that 1 month alone. And the same guy, he said, can you imagine the amount of impact we're creating? And that was just, like you said, purpose. The purpose came out that for us, COVID gave us the purpose, right? And it was just absolutely fantastic in terms of the learning we had, the opportunity that we had, and the timing just was just perfect of bringing us
Yeah.
all together.
I also want to talk a little bit about because I think you people are operating in the health tech domain. A
Yep.
lot of technologies, which I mean, I think it timing wali bhi baat hai. I think pandemic kind of accelerated the adoption of technology in general in your ecosystem, right? So जैसे telemedicine हो गया, remote patient monitoring हो गई. How do you see the doctors adapting to these technologies? जो traditional डॉक्टर पेशेंट रिलेशनशिप और ये सारी जो चीजें होती थी, have you seen an impact, and how exactly has the behavior changed on that side?
So healthcare change management is slow, but having said that, I think to blow a little trumpet of our own, I think what I have seen since we launched our entire enterprise ecosystem, which is the whole platform for the hospital, right from inpatient, emergency, outpatient, remote patient monitoring, everything put together, which we launched in December 2022, right? Across our hospitals today, Sohail, we are seeing the nursing adoption, and this is not only to put medicine order entries, put clinical data entry, which means vitals and all of those things, is a 99% compliance. The doctor compliance, which in December 2022 was 2%, across the ecosystem today is above 78%. And the most interesting thing is that in tier 2 India, it is even higher. My hospital in Ludhiana has a doctor compliance of 98%, right? And this is a 300 bedded hospital, which does about 1,600 OPDs a day, close to about 80 admissions a day, close to about 20 emergency trauma cases per day, right? And does about close to 600 what they call preventive health packages per day. It's not a small volume, but all the doctors there are now adopting. So I think it is happening. I think in the next 18 months, on an average, we would have moved up to about 90-95%.
पर ये क्यों हो रहा है? Why is this happening? I'm
One
just
is the
trying.
one is platform, right? That makes a very, very big difference. Because the doctors will see, you have to make the doctors don't care about anything else.
Yeah.
They say, boss, you have to make my life easier, because if you want me to use technology which becomes a pain for me, that reduces my time with my patient. So whatever you do, if you can help me improve my time efficiency with my patient, you won me, right? So that's one big factor in their minds. The second thing is the new set of doctors, the new breed that is coming out today is a tech savvy breed. And they use our voice to text platform. They use everything, all the data analytics, everything is used by them. So I think they've been waiting also. One is that there has to be an appropriate platform, but second also, like I said, COVID was a big changing factor, because they were forced to use these platforms. Choice in time. So that was a huge changing mindset, because doctors are very, very big. In this entire decision-making process, I will put the doctor's say or the doctor's call at about 80-85%. right? If the doctor says मुझे ये platform चाहिए, the hospital owner will say done. So which is why when we go for our sales pitch, we go to we obviously meet the senior management. We say, listen, I will only do one exercise with the doctor. Sir, आप पेपर पे करो, आप जो प्रिस्क्रिप्शन करते हो ना, आप मुझे उसकी जो मेडिसिन एक्सेट्रा दैट यू लाइक टू यूज, आप मुझे वो मेरे एक बार वन टाइम कॉन्फ़िगरेशन में आई विल डू इट. ठीक है, नाउ द पेशेंट कम्स इन, you do it on paper and I will do it on my system. And what we've been able to display each time, we end up doing it in under 35-40 seconds, maximum 1 minute. उसका जो पेपर प्रिस्क्रिप्शन है 2 मिनट से 3 मिनट लग जाते हैं. I think that is where, and it's not just us, Sohail. I have seen a lot of other health tech startups are now beginning to realize that this is a good play to go in, right? Win the doctor. The timing is right. So the more they are, because like I said, this is a huge country, yeah. 49,000 hospitals is no small sector. But you have to spend that time and effort to build that product. That's one thing that I feel with the existing players who were there for the last 20-30 years in the health tech space, I think if they had evolved, it would have been much better. But I think they've created an opportunity for all of us simply by just not evolving. Their product has not evolved, their platforms have not evolved, the business models have not evolved. And you've left that door open for us to come in. And today that solution is what we are offering, along with some of the other health tech startups who are also now coming into this space. Good market. It's a very, very good market. My only one request, which I keep saying to every health tech startup, is healthcare is a sensitive area. See, retail में you can do a little bit of goli mari and get away with it. Customer 2-3 थप्पड़ मारेंगे, फिर then you'll also learn your lesson, etc. Healthcare is sensitive, yeah. You get something wrong, it's not a question of thappad. You can make severe damage in every sense whatsoever. So second thing is, hospitals, unfortunately or fortunately, don't have a choice. If you as a health tech startup go to a hospital and they take your product, and what you sold them versus what they're actually getting in life is something totally different. भरोसा उड़ जाता है यार. And जब वो भरोसा उड़ जाता है ना, the problem is that they do not look at any health tech startups after that particular hospital. So whoever is doing it, please go in with a product which is stable, which is clear, and which has got very clear intent to what you want to do, and then tell them कि यार, and जो नहीं कर सकते हो बोल तो नहीं कर सकते हो यार.
अभी कोई where all, I mean, of course you are basically playing all bases here, but in general, do you see any interesting opportunities or any interesting startups apart from, of course, your own, who are doing good work?
Yeah, there are a lot of them. Yeah, I think you've got voice to text platforms like Ognito, which is doing a great job. They're doing very well. I think that's a good startup. Healthflix is doing very well in the primary care space. I think that's a good company. Care Experts is also doing some good work. Then in the radiology space, I think Cure.ai is doing very well. They've got a good product and a platform. So I think a few are coming up who've got the right business model and who've been able to do it. I think, but there are a few there. I don't think there are too many, unfortunately, because most of them have gone D2C.
So, मेरे को एक बात बताओ sir, so you're one of those founders who did not have a healthcare experience, and I guess none of the people in your core team did. See, I mean, any kind of thoughts that you have for anybody who's trying to build in the healthcare space but is not from this ecosystem? Any pointers for them as to कि करना चाहिए, नहीं करना चाहिए, अगर कर रहे हो तो क्या-क्या चीजें करनी चाहिए, या फिर टीम में एक SME होना जरूरी है? What is your thought on that?
So first of all, I don't think you need to have a healthcare experience to do it, because I'll tell you one big issue with that is most of the people who I met, and even when I was hiring our team, they always came in with this one line कि sir, healthcare में ऐसे ही होता है. Right? अगर ऐसे ही होता है तो फिर तुम change कैसे लेके आओगे यार? Right? So that was one big issue that I felt. So I think healthcare needs fresh minds, and that fresh mind needs to come from outside. When that fresh mind is coming in, my one point to them is you have to make a significant investment, not in capital, in your time and effort, to try and understand and go really deep. Don't only scratch the surface and even layer 1, layer 2. You have to go down to the core to understand how healthcare works, what are the problem statements, why they have, and please spend time with the front runners like the OP desk, the people who are doing the job. Spend time with them. They will give you the answers on what is their pain points. If you try and come with a product to them, then exactly what we were discussing earlier will be, yeah, mere paas already, I've got used to it now, don't change my life. Right? But if you have heard them out and then you bring a product to them and say, yeah, listen, I know you face this problem. Here is something which is trying to address that product. You will at least get them to hear it out. Right? So I think that becomes something they should do. And the third thing I would say is you have to surround yourself with the right people. So you can't just say that you will not have non-healthcare people building an entire organization. So yes, three of us are non-healthcare, but the next layer that you have, which is our COO, our head of clinical transformation, our team leads, everyone, Sohail, is healthcare. And what we focused on was that we said, listen, when we bring this in, let's hire out the best that there is in the country and bring them in. And then the first thing we said to them, when Anish, Divya and I sat down, we said, listen, guys, the reason why we brought you in is you've done the best work in the country, but you've also learned what has not worked and what has been the pain points. What we brought you in is to learn from those pain points and build a product. Because what you've already done, 6,000 other people already have that in the market. And I think that thesis worked, right? And that thesis is what helped us. So this is what I would say to, there is a lot of problem in healthcare. Yeah? Nobody, MyHealthcare cannot solve all problems. And even 10 companies in health tech cannot solve all problems. Because there are big problems in healthcare delivery. But agar ab fresh minds are, I think, are a better asset in healthcare sector. In when you talk about digitalization, then I would say people who've been there, done that in their lives.
It's a B2B sales game, right? At the end of the day, it's a B2B sales game, right? So मेरे को ये समझना था कि यार इस मार्केट में does the product sell itself या फिर even if you've got a really good product, you really need to sell and only then the product will be
say it's the latter. You really need to build a good product and then the product will sell itself. That's healthcare. You cannot build a product and just say, yeah, I'll put an army of a sales team and I will get it deployed. ये नहीं हो सकता, healthcare में नहीं हो सकता. अच्छा. And I've just got back. I mean, as you know, I was in Malaysia. I've just got back and I spent 7 days there this time. This is on a post-COVID trip. I've also already spent in a pre-COVID trip. I spent a few months there. It's no different, yeah. It's exactly the same. What we built during COVID, so the same hospitals I went back and they were all like, De do yaar, this is what we need. I have one hospital owner who I met. He said, yeah, now I have a bigger problem because 6 months ago, I gave an order to this guy, my current vendor. It's 6 months later, I've already paid the money. I don't know what to do. And what you have is exactly what I want. That's what I want. Now I'm spending, now this existing guy is asking me for extra money to build layer on top, right? So product will sell itself if you've got a good product. And I think that's, at least in healthcare, I believe that that's the way to do it. You don't need, yes, you need salespeople, you need good salespeople who understand that product and are able to position that product correctly. Because you're not selling an X-ray machine, yeah. You're selling a software. And a software which is also a concept.
So, but मेरे को एक बात बताओ, ये globally, when we talk about the global ecosystem, is the whole adoption of technology is the same seen across the world, or मतलब कि कोई ऐसा country है या फिर India is the only one या फिर East is the only one which is lagging behind?
No. So I would say, look, there are certain economies which are far more advanced. So the US, Canada, UK, the reason why they've been advanced is not just because of the fact that they are more mature markets. The government has played a very pivotal role there. Okay? Yeah. So, like for example, in the US, you can't do insurance settlement unless and until all the records have come digitally to them. Right? So EMR compliance in the US is mandatory. In NHS, EMR compliance is mandatory. In Canada, the entire healthcare system is centralized. So when the government here talks about na, hum UHI karenge healthcare mein, वो Canada में already centralized है. right? So the architecture is such that whether I go to a clinic, whether I go to hospital A, hospital B, hospital C, all my records are all getting centralized because the system has been built like that from day one. So I think those are very mature markets where that problem is not being faced. But if I take that out of the equation, the problem statement is the same everywhere. चाहे आप मिडिल ईस्ट में जाओ, चाहे आप, it's a different grading of problem, but Southeast Asia is exactly like India. Absolutely like India. The Indian subcontinent is like India. And the entire Africa market is also like that.
It's a valid point here. I think government regulations make a lot of difference. I guess UK का जो NHS है, I mean, the reason why the in-home healthcare is so advanced there is because it's integrated. वो आपको mandatory है उस वहाँ पे.
Absolutely. Also, yeah, so he'll understand the entire thing of healthcare, understanding of healthcare with governments is not easy. Healthcare is complex. It's not like you go to a budget and say, यार ये मेरा नया policy मैंने change कर दिया. Tax में तो आप change कर सकते हो. Healthcare, because we are a large, again go back, because we are largely privately health market, right? And everything is a disparate system. Everything is disconnected. Everything is, on paper. So you have to start understanding the problem and start building it slowly. So you have to bring the entire thing. If I go and say, yeah, tomorrow I want like we had demonetization. Yeah, everything has to change overnight. But UPI grows and everything grows, right? Now, why was UPI successful? UPI was successful because your entire banking system across the country, okay, got centralized. And I'll tell you, it is a marvel. I did not even know this. When I was in Malaysia last week, yeah, they were looking at UPI and saying, yeah, तुम लोग करते कैसे हो UPI? Right? Indonesia, Malaysia, they don't have UPI.
Yeah. Cash चलता है.
Cash भी नहीं, online में भी जो करते हैं, they have an app, but when I showed them that in India through WhatsApp I can do an UPI payment, they said, how? Right? So there are things that we do right? There is no question about it. But what we've done in the payment system, you can't just say I will do the same thing in healthcare, because healthcare, it's not you got 49,000 players. Unlike you in India, I don't know how many banks, but I don't think you'll have more than 500 or 600 banks. Plus, in India, if all the banks have to go through a common clearing house, right, which is the RBI clearing house. So if RBI says, "Ye mera clearing house hai, aap iske bina aap kar nahi sakte ho," then everybody goes into a common system. But doing those changes in India will take time. Hoga 100% hoga. समय लगेगा. Patience has to be there. That's it.
It's just a matter of time. यार मैं तो हमेशा ये बोलता हूँ कि it's not a question of if, it's a question of when.
Absolutely, 100% smart. And India will do. And when India changes, it'll go like a hockey stick at one point.
इतना volume है हमारा.
I tell you, well, now going back to my little bit of my personal life, every time, like when I was even NDTV, there were lots of offers to go and work abroad. Then you go abroad and you always test the waters and you come back and कुछ भी हूँ, अपने कंट्री में मैं राजा, हर इंसान राजा, ठीक है? उस कंट्री में ना मैं राजा का चेला हूँ, it's worse than that. And second is, in this country, when people talk about the great American dream, for the next foreseeable 25 to 30 years, it is going to be about the great Indian dream. Opportunities here. You can't have a global company today which is doing anything and India is not part of that story. If India is not part of the story, they don't have a global story, right? Yeah. And whether it's and this is now, as you've seen, this is recognized by Amazon, is recognized by Google, is recognized by Microsoft, and the last of the pack, it has also been recognized by Apple finally, right? So you can't. India is the market. चाहे आप इसको infra लो, software लो, anything you do. Yes, healthcare has been lagging by far the most. Unfortunately, that's the reality. That's all.
But that also creates opportunity, no?
Yes, absolutely. It's a huge opportunity. And that's one of the other exciting things. I don't think in the next 50 years will come even remotely near a glass. Whereas all other sectors, retail, etc., you're hitting the glass ceiling today.
अभी तो मतलब चालू भी नहीं हुआ है. If you really start working on it, there's so much to do, and there is so much to do कि मतलब जिंदगी निकल जाएगी यार, काम खत्म नहीं होगा.
the analogy that I will use is, if you remember, जब Maruti Suzuki आई थी इंडिया में, everybody said, यार boss, अब गाड़ियाँ change होने वाली है, right? We are at that stage in healthcare that things have started coming in, and I think we will start seeing change in healthcare. There is no two ways about it.
इसमें ये भी है ना सर कि आई थिंक इफ यू लुक एट डॉक्टर्स, हर साल 5,000 निकलता है गिन
हाँ,
चुन के, ठीक है। और आई थिंक नाउ द एवरेज एज ऑफ द डॉक्टर्स इज आल्सो काइंड ऑफ यू नो गोइंग डाउन। पीपल आर बिकमिंग, द डॉक्टर्स आर नाउ मोर टेक savvy. सो पहले क्या था कि देयर वाज अ रेजिस्टेंस टू अडॉप्शन. Now, as in the administration, as more tech savvy folks come in, they would not say no, rather they would be more receptive to it.
absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. And I will say, even Sohail, the older doctors, right? I am seeing in our hospital people who are head of departments and all, जो 45, 50 पे है, very savvy with tech, yeah. Very, very savvy. In fact, one of the hospitals went and even told the owner, yeah, please bring a solution. I can't do this on paper anymore. Like, that is actually how we went into that hospital. It came from the doctors. But the new breed, you're right, they are getting, and they're more comfortable with it. Right? For them, it is, they see it as they see solutioning technology as an efficiency tool for them, because चाहे कुछ भी हो जाए, India is going to have a demand supply mismatch for the next 50 years, which means every doctor is going to have a lot of demand. Right? So I'm going to fuel that demand. How do I fuel the demand? I have to make myself more efficient as a doctor. My time is every minute. If I have to spend 10 minutes with the patient, that must be the best 10 minutes with the patient. It should not go to 15 unless it's absolutely necessary. And the doctors are also thinking of how to use data effectively also. So if I input that, because I can't remember, यार सोहेल मेरे पास 6 महीने पहले आया था, अब 6 महीने बाद में आया है. One shred of paper, I can't remember what happened then.
So people are funded, right?
Yes.
कहाँ से, मतलब who all are backing you?
So we have venture capital. We have venture capital out of Bombay. We have venture capital. I won't get into the names right now. But we have domestic venture capital. We have foreign strategic investors who are inside us. We have raised capital of almost close to 15 million as of now. And yes, we are in the midst of raising our next round. But ये funding वाला कहानी is, if you ask me, as an entrepreneur's life, 50% product and revenues. The other 50%, please make sure you have constantly filling fuel in the tank. Right? Don't run out of fuel. Because the greatest injustice would be great product, great business, fuel ran out. And gaadi beech mein ruk gayi, and then there's nobody to bail the car out. Unfortunately, today we are going through that phase in India. And I don't know, somewhere I also blame founders, and somewhere I blame the investors. Where I blame the founders is you have to choose your investors carefully. They have to know exactly what you're doing. They should not be derailing your story. And you have to also know that you've got the right investor who believes in your vision and what you are trying to do. And today, Sohel, I'll tell you, one of my largest investors who's sitting there, I'm blessed. If I'm not in the room, na, वो मेरा धंधा मेरे से better बेच सकता है. And he's my investor. Right? He doesn't interfere with me on a daily basis. At least if he's helping me, it's more than capital. He's saying, yeah, listen, I'll connect you to this guy. I'll connect you to this guy. You must meet this guy, and so on and so forth. I think that is more valuable than capital. Those bets, I think, today are difficult to get, but it's also a correction time. Yeah, होता है, required है कभी कभी.
ये तो मतलब वो वाली बात है सर. देखो, I think and I guess most of the people who have raised funds, पहला राउंड जो होता है उसमें तो हमेशा you are a beggar. The first round you are always a beggar. ये छोटा से छोटा भी हो, आपको जो मिल जाए, but at least if you have a semblance of a PMF, at least you are in a comfortable position जहाँ पे at least you are making profit, थोड़ा सा भी सही, but at least थोड़ा सा profitable sense में है, थोड़ा सा hockey stick नजर आ रहा है. You need to be a little bit cautious about the kind of people.
And D2C में is the biggest slip you can make, Sohail. ये जो जर्नी है ना, एटलीस्ट इन हेल्थ केयर, you have to be very, very careful about D2C. I think there have been too many wacko D2C models which came into the market and then over like, in 24 months became unicorns. Healthcare में something is wrong if you're growing that fast. हो ही नहीं सकता है यार, कुछ तो टूटने वाला है. And today, unfortunately, we are seeing that break.
तो हुआ है अभी 90% ड्रॉप ऑफ भी हुआ है, बट आई थिंक दैट्स, आई विल कॉल इट इकोसिस्टम करेक्शन. वो इकोसिस्टम ही उस तरीके से हो गया है चेंज, तो क्या कर सकते हैं आप,
Right.
समय समय की
I
बात है.
think it is. So founders, I think 2-3 things they should have. One is choose the investors carefully. Second is, if you can, if possible, try and, like, I find it extremely valuable to have a mentor who's not from the sector, who I can talk to and who can keep telling me, yeah, boss, to stay on the rails. Don't get derailed. Right. And also has to keep telling you, because it is a very stressful thing. Yeah. Funding is not easy. That person has to also keep telling you, yeah, chill, you're on the right track, you'll get there. This is the journey of a founder, because it's a very lonely journey. Like, all the other stuff is all nice to see and everything, but that dhanda lana and funding is your responsibility no matter what you do. So that, I think, is if you're fortunate and you can have somebody to guide you, you need that guidance.
So इसमें दोनों, there are two perspectives to it, right? A lot of founders don't want investors to meddle in their business. So there are people who have a hands-off approach, and then there are people who are micromanagers,
Yeah.
right? मुझे तो कभी कभी ये भी लगता है कि यार देखो, आई थिंक यू हैव टू, एज एन इन्वेस्टर, यू नीड टू बी समवेयर इन द मिडिल.
Yeah.
Wherein of course you need to keep an eye out, but you should not be interfering, and be there whenever there is a need. A lot of money which comes in nowadays is primarily PR money. कि मतलब मैं पैसा लूंगा इससे, तो फिर उसको देख के और लोग मेरे में पैसा डालेंगे, ठीक है. एंड दैट मनी डज नॉट, आई डोंट नो, मतलब ऑफ कोर्स प्रॉब्ली इट वर्क्स, एंड ज्यादातर फंडिंग तो खैर फोमो ही हो जाती है इस मामले में, कि उसने डाल दिया तो भाई मेरे को भी डालना है.
ये फोमो ही चलता है T2C में, सोहेल, और कुछ नहीं. एंड ये फोमो में ही गलतियां होती है.
बट आपको नहीं लगता कि मतलब, नहीं, मेरे ख्याल से अगर आप लॉन्ग टर्म अप्रोच रखोगे तो फिर it doesn't matter what deals you miss out on, as long as,
Yeah, you have to, like I said, it's a question of what are you trying to do. If your vision as a founder is, यार मैं तो इसको 3 साल में ये बना के बेच के निकल जाऊंगा यहाँ से, then your game is very different in life. Then you go 100, 300, 400, you're just raising money for the heck of it, because you're not trying to build a business. चल गया तो चल गया, नहीं चल गया. After a certain point, when investors are pumped in $300 million, now it's not a founder's problem anymore, it's an investor's problem.
yeah.
And I met founders who are saying, यार अब तो मैं चिल कर रहा हूँ, प्रॉब्लम ही मेरा नहीं है, प्रॉब्लम उनका है. Right? So those are things where the fit has to be very good. And in my view, I think it's no different from a marriage here. An investor is like, you have to be very sure that you want to be able to, not just wine and dine with that investor, but they have to be able to back your story and believe in your story and make sure that they're helping you, that you don't get derailed. कभी कभी तुम लोग बोलते हो ये चले जाओ, कभी बोलते हो वो चले जाओ, कभी यार फाउंडर को समझ में नहीं आता है ना यार. उसको तो ये कि यार देखो, पैसे मैंने आपसे लिए है, आप मुझे पैसे दोगे मैं तो इधर ही चले जाऊंगा, आप मुझे बोलोगे यहाँ चलने, मैं वहां चले जाऊंगा. You should not do that. Then you'll get derailed very quickly. So I think that's something where I think the founder's maturity is important. Yes.
Yeah, I think 90% of the people, the reason why they are starting a startup, so to speak, is usually not right. और मेरे ख्याल से शुरुआत में ना वो पता चलता भी नहीं है. आप तो मतलब इट्स लाइक यू हैव बीन ब्रॉट अप इन अ इकोसिस्टम वेयर द पीयर प्रेशर runs paramount, and you are running towards the next shining object. But I think वो एक बार दो बार धक्का खाने के बाद ही आदमी समझता है. बहुत कम लोग होते हैं जिनको ये मेच्योरिटी मिलेगी. आप 25 साल से हो बिजनेस में, आपको समझ में आता है. मैंने 2 चीजें कर ली तो मुझे थोड़ी बहुत चीजें समझ में आ गई. बट anybody who's just coming out of college, and I see so many incubators, accelerators, जो स्टूडेंट लेवल पे जो फंडिंग उठानी है उनको, उनको बिजनेस नहीं खड़ा करना है. एंड पीपल आर वियर्डली यार, जनता फैमिली बिजनेस छोड़ करके.
ये सोहेल सबसे बड़ी प्रॉब्लम है यार. पहले वो सोचते कि यार इसे दे आई हैव मेट सो मेनी फाउंडर्स along the way who say यार ये मेरा कॉन्सेप्ट है, मुझे तो 2-3 मिलियन उठाना है. ऐसे यार तुम्हारा बिजनेस क्या है? अनलेस एंड अंटिल यू हिट रेवेन्यू at a concept stage, anything can go wrong. Second is, please don't start a business because you had an experience in life, right? I met so यार मेरा ना ये हुआ था, so therefore I saw an opportunity, मैंने business शुरू कर दिया. ऐसा नहीं होता है boss. You have to be very very clear कि what is the business opportunity, and I think this is where I don't know whether you've ever seen this Simon Sinek's Golden Circles.
या
How
या.
I think that every founder should go through that, and please be defining the why first,
Why
and
first?
then anything else. Yeah, everybody misses that. So hell, the number of people who miss that is far higher than anything else.
Yeah.
Find that why first, and then you will be fine.
ये तो खैर मतलब it's a philosophy of life in a way, and I believe entrepreneurship is, if you are an entrepreneur, once you're an entrepreneur, then you are always an entrepreneur. ये it's a lifestyle. It's not a
It's
one-time
lifestyle.
business thing.
I will also tell you what my mentor said to me. He said, "Listen, entrepreneurship is a marathon and not a sprint."
Yeah.
Right?
Biggest learning of my life.
Right?
Yeah.
So you have to pace yourself.
Yeah.
Don't try and do this sprint and then you will burn out. And if you're seeing entrepreneurship as a sprint, and that sprint could be anything. He said, what I mean? I asked him, I said, what do you mean by sprint? He said, if your thing is, yeah, I want that boat and I want that car and I want that house, and I have to figure out how can I get to that in 2 years, you're going to go wrong. You have to be there for the long haul. It can go right, it can go wrong, and there's a higher chance things will go wrong. And entrepreneurship is how do you come out of when it goes wrong? Right? Going right is very difficult. Funding is up there, भगवान के ऊपर है.
यार फंडिंग, मैं तो यही मानता हूँ कि यार बिजनेस खड़ा करो, अगर पैसा आएगा तो फंडिंग अपने आप आ जाएगी. तुमको फंडिंग के पीछे भागने की कभी जरूरत नहीं पड़ेगी. फोकस ऑन द बिजनेस यार, फोकस ऑन द बिजनेस. तो मेरा तो ये भी मानना है सर कि टेक्निकली एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप यू नीड टू थिंक लाइक अ साइंटिस्ट. इट्स एन एक्सपेरिमेंट. एवरी कैंपेन दैट यू डू इज एन एक्सपेरिमेंट. या तो पास, या तो चलेगा या तो नहीं चलेगा. अगर नहीं चल रहा है देन यू टेक द लर्निंग दैट दिस थिंग डज नॉट वर्क. अगर चल रहा है तो उसको और करो. इट्स एज सिंपल एज दैट, राइट? एंड देयर आर, if you are an entrepreneur, then it's not you who has failed. It's probably the problem that is not the one which you should be going after. तो वो वाली चीज है. ओके, आई थिंक काफी इधर उधर की बातें हो गई. लास्ट क्वेश्चन पूछता हूँ सर,
बोलो.
and then we can probably call it a day. You people are at the forefront of technology in your ecosystem, right? So you people are trying to lead the whole race, or rather help in the adoption of technology in your ecosystem. How do you see the current trends in AI and ML changing the game, and is it going to accelerate? I mean, where exactly do you see these newer forms of rapid pace technology changes which are happening, changing the ecosystem?
I think AI and ML, and I would say AI, I would use AI in two forms: augmented intelligence and artificial intelligence, right? Both of them together, and with, I would say, data management, that is going to be one very, very big pillar in reforming healthcare delivery across the world. Okay. Now, how you choose to use it, how you choose to bring about a product to use that effectively is very important. It is not easy because the biggest issue is that there is not enough foundation data there. So like, unlike other things like in digital world, it's easy to do a chat GPT because there is so much data in the web and you can do a chat GPT. But in healthcare, because everything has been on paper largely, डेटा ही नहीं है तो आप जीपीटी कैसे करोगे? AI needs the data. The data needs to get structured. It needs to get tagged. So it's the foundation that is important. And once various players have got the foundation together, I think AI and ML will help become the accelerator at that point of time. So it is very key. I think a lot of people are doing it. And also, I think it's going to fill a very big gap, Sohail, because doctors, I don't think AI can replace a doctor. So anybody who says that, I think, no, I've heard a few people say, sir, I can replace a doctor's decision, right? मैं तो रेडियोलॉजिस्ट का काम ही कर दूंगा, आपको तो सिर्फ सिग्नेचर डालना है. And I think that's a fool's paradise. So that's stupid. But I think AI and ML is definitely going to make doctors far more efficient and also will help reduce things like medical negligence errors, medical administration errors, and also help with things like early warning system. That will be very, very important. That's one part of the journey. The second part of the journey where AI will play a very big role with ML and data management is in precision medicine. I think we'll be able to get, when you start bringing clinical data, gene maps, and all of that together, I think you will start finding that intersection will take you down the journey of precision medicine. Right? So these two are very key. And around these two, then you'll have other things that will happen, the things like, accurate preventive health and all of that. But making the doctors efficient on one hand and with all the data, etc., through and etc., that's happening. Things like powering pharma research and also chalta rahega. I don't think that's key. Once we get the base data layer and everything sorted, that accelerator is going to be fantastic. ठीक है?
दुनिया बहुत तेजी से आगे बढ़ रही है सर.
बहुत. And I think the good thing is it's all in the right direction. बहुत opportunity है. सिर्फ सोच समझ के काम करना, but that's all.
With that, Shyatto sir, I think we can come to an end to this very interesting conversation around healthcare and MyHealthcare. How was your experience?
I loved it, yeah. I think this bilingual thing is much better.
Yeah.
And less Q&A and like it's free flowing. I think much better. Great fun.
मजा आया ना?
हाँ. नहीं तो I bail out यार. आप देखो यार 9 बजने वाले हैं. अब मुझे किसी का I had to be in somebody's house for dinner at 8:30. मैंने time देख रखा है. But I'm enjoying this, which is why I said उसका phone भी आया है. It was genuinely so really good one.